Now, you may not even need the mic, but.
No, that sounds good.
Okay, that's better. La 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 la. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming out this afternoon, this beautiful afternoon. I know you could all be out somewhere at the beach or in the park or enjoying this beautiful sunshine down by BAM. This is the Dance Africa weekend. So just want to thank you for coming up this afternoon to join us here at the Pan-African Federalist Movement, our first coalition building forum. My name, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Baba Jiwe, and I am the acting coordinator of the New York State Coordinating Committee of the Pan-African Federalist Movement. The New York State Coordinating Committee was established in March of 2020. So we're now just over 2 years old. Our committee started off, of all places, in a juice bar up in Harlem on 125th Street. 7 of us met together over juice. And it was the first opportunity I had to meet this brother next to me, Brother Jumai. And Brother Jumai is one of the founders of the Pan-African Federalist Movement, of which we are a part. And this is a movement that originated in 2015. And Brother Jumai was there at the inception of the movement. So through a friend of mine who had met Brother Jumai in Africa, he brought us together and called a meeting. And I was so impressed with what Brother Jumai presented to me at the time. I just immediately decided that I wanted to be a part of this movement. And of the 7 of us that met, including Brother Jumai, it was decided based on my eldership.
Wisdom.
I was chosen to be the coordinator of that newborn committee of 7. So as of now, we have a committee list, members list of 23. We've grown. We have a youth mobilization committee. We have a women's mobilization committee. And the coordinators of those 2 committees are here with us today. Sister Aisha is our Women's Mobilization Committee member. And Brother Nile is our Youth Mobilization Coordinator. And his bodyguard is Brother Nemo. And they're doing a really great job, mobilizing our youth. Between the 2 of them, they're doing the work of 10, really good young brothers. So I'm very inspired by having these youth involved with us. And it took us some time to actually get some serious youth involved. So basically, that was the inception of this committee. And I will continue to act as the coordinator until such time as we have developed to a point where I can maybe graduate and become active in the United African States preparatory process, which is what we're striving for. In a nutshell, the entire movement of the Pan-African Federalist Movement has one main and all-inviting purpose, and that is the unification of not only the continent of Africa, but all African people in the globe, on the continent as well as in the diaspora, under one federal United African States, right? And this is what we're about. It's a grassroots movement, so we're building from the bottom up. And I would like to now just have Brother Jumai give us some real insight into the movement itself. But before that, Brother Asukile here is going to present us with a libation. Brother Asukile.
Jeff, you say can we move this?
Yeah.
Okay. Tight. What's up, Africans? No, y'all don't. If we was down south, one of the mothers was like, something ain't right. What's up, Africans? What's up, Africans? All right, all right. So when we do anything as Africans, first we give honor and glory to our Creator. We acknowledge the presence of our ancestors that are with us and the forces that support the work of the Creator. Some people call those the Orisha, some people call them the Abasum, some people call them the Loa, some people call them guardian angels, and so forth. But we know that they work for our Creator. So in all things, first we give, let me give you some ground rules, y'all. Because this is call and response, right? So when you see the water poured, you could say Ashe, you could say Hotep, you could say Amin, you could say Amen, you could say Yao, you could say all right now, but don't just stand there like some Africans from Brooklyn that don't know they're Africans, all right? That's the ground rules. We cool with that? Yeah. All right. I feel like a comedian. I feel like Eddie Murphy or something right now. Anyway, giving honor and glory to our Creator, the Creator of the sun, moon, and stars, the Creator of the earth and the planets that surround the sun, the Creator of you and I, giving honor and glory to the forces that support the work of the Creator, known in many different names and many different traditions. But we honor them because in honoring them, we honor the Creator. But guess what? We also honor us because everything that they are is in us. Giving honor and glory to our ancestors, the first man and woman, Dinkanesh, and that brother with no name. Why the brother don't have no name? We got to work on that. Giving honor and glory to those first Africans, those first human beings that set foot on the planet Earth, on the continent that we call our mother, Africa. Giving honor and glory to the Africans that created the first civilizations, the first nation states, that gave us science, culture, art, government. We give honor and glory to them and ask them to be present with us. Giving honor and glory to our ancestors that went through the horrible experience that we call the Ma'afa. We ask them to be present with us, and we give thanks to those that survived and remember those who didn't make it through. We give honor and glory to our freedom fighters, those who fought in Central America, on the continent of Africa, those who fought in Egypt, those who fought in Ghana, those who fought in Nigeria, those who fought in Brazil, those who fought in the islands of Jamaica, those who fought in the hills of America with the Seminoles and so forth. Giving honor and glory to those that fought from the beginning of the incursions to those who fought in the slave dungeons, to those who fought on the boats, those who fought in the ports on the eastern seaboard of North America and Brazil and on the islands in the Caribbean. Giving honor and glory to those who fought in the wars that came later, the wars in Angola, the wars in South Africa, the wars, the wars in Jamaica, the wars in Trinidad, the wars in Haiti, the wars in South Carolina and Virginia and West Virginia and North Carolina and Florida. Giving honor and glory to the Creator for the release of those freedom fighters like our brother Sundiata Acoli and the Africa family. We pray the ancestors will be with us and strengthen us. We pray the Creator will be with us so that we will be able to see Mumia come free and Matulu Shakur come free and all the other brothers and sisters who are political prisoners either directly by the political actions or just by the fact of public policy. We pray for their freedom, Creator. We ask you to be with them and to be with us and give us the strength and the vision to do what we have to do to get our brothers and sisters out, to get our grandmothers out, to get our grandfathers out. We pray that you will be with our people, that we know will come to a day where we no longer see our young brothers and sisters slaughtered in the streets, whether it's by their brothers and sisters, whether it's by a white police officer or a black police officer, or whether it's by their own design. We pray that you will be with us to give us the strength to love each other, to support each other, to respect each other. Creator, we ask that you remind us of who we are, that we are your children having a human experience, that we are God, small g, in honor of you, God, with the big G. Help us to remember and respect and love ourselves once again, and to love you that much more deeper. Ashe, 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 oh.
I'd like to just hand it over to Brother Jemai now.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. May our ancestors who have come before us bless this event, and may those who are not born yet remember this day and days like this as well. They met that day to make it possible for us to be on the top of the world again, with respecting everybody, with the perception of humanism from Africa, not dominating, not controlling, not oppressing, but saving the Homo sapiens, which was born in Africa. You know, so I'm very happy to be here. I'm really blessed to have these men, these women, you, all of you, to be here, you know, to discuss, you know, educate ourselves on what we must do to free ourselves and free generations to come of African people, you know, to retake back the control of their destiny, which was connivingly stolen from them, you know, through slavery, through treaties, bogus treaties that were signed after the Berlin Conference and others, you know, to end neocolonialism, to really make real the dreams of Toussaint Louverture, make real the dream of Garvey, Du Bois, make real the dreams of Nkrumah, Barthélemy Boganda, Lumumba, and many others who have dreamed of an African that is sovereign, of Malcolm X, of course, you know. So we're here to really, we're just here to have a conversation, you know, really have to have a conversation thanks to actually this is an idea of Brother Nemo who is sitting there. We have a forum on African unity. It is not, I'm not much about lecturing anyone about anything. Really, there's a place for that. I'm about having a conversation for an understanding so we can act together. See, conversation for leveling the play field of understanding, so that we could act together to change the world. That's really what I like a lot. The Pan-African Federalist movement, as Baba Jiwe said, is really a coalition, a grassroots coalition of individuals and organizations of African people, with one and only one element of its agenda: campaign for the political unification of the African states on the continent and the Caribbean island, create a federal government of the African people, by the African people, and for the African people, where Africans, wherever they are in the world, will have the right to representation in the legislative structure of that government. The right to representation at the legislative level, meaning that Africans here in America will have their senators, just like Africans in Haiti or Africans in somewhere in Senegal, so that they could make laws that reflect what is the sentiment of Africans globally. That they could make laws that could, Africans, living in an empire on which the sun never set, could identify with and have kind of the joy of having a civic engagement that will allow them to make that state accountable to them and that make that state protective of Africans wherever they are, a state that could really represent their interests in a way. So that's what the movement is: a coalition of organization and individuals. Right now, what we're doing really is that we are preparing for what we call the first Pan-African Federalist Congress. Why do we? Because maybe some of you will wonder, why do they call it first Pan-African Federalist Congress? See, one of the things that history we have to learn from the past in order to kind of avoid the mistakes or the misgivings, the misunderstanding of the past, in order to kind of walk in a much more enlightened, I guess I would call it like that, more pragmatic, way. See, if you're looking at the history of African effort to unite Africa, starting with Garvey, with the poem of the 1920, Hail the United States of Africa, with even the meeting of the UNIA in New York, where one of the conditions to be a member of the UNIA was to be for African unity. I don't know if a lot of people keep that, but one of the absolute necessary conditions that you cannot be negotiated was to be for African unity. That was one of the, in order to become a member of UNIA. So Garvey was the first Pan-African Federalist. He didn't call it Pan-African Federalism, of course, but he was the first, at least from all my studies, my research, the first one to call for a United States of Africa. So we call him the first Pan-African Federalist. So starting from Garvey and then the teaching of Garvey to Nkrumah, the teaching of Nkrumah to others, and then the Cheikh Anta Diop, the battling Lumumba, and all this, there have been efforts to unite the African states. When in the 1950s, late 1950s, Nkrumah came back to Africa after the Congress, of course, 1945 in Manchester, He came back to Africa as a Pan-African Federalist, and he thought that the people that he met at the Congress were also Federalists like him, like Jomo Kenyatta and others, but unfortunately he was mistaken, because Kenyatta was never a Federalist really. He was, whatever he wanted to be. but not a Pan-African Federalist, that's for sure. So when he met, when he came back to Ghana, after that Congress, and was able to lead the independence of Ghana, he believed that, these heads of state, these people who we was in the Pan-Africanism with, would just go with him, He believed that. This is why he, went to a conference that was organized in Casablanca by Mohammed Senk at that time, but what he didn't realize was that that conference was really for the independence of Algeria more than for African unity, because even Laos was invited in that because it was a French colony at that time, And because Ghana, if you're looking at Ghana, the port of Ghana, if you want to have access to Algeria through Mali and all of that, Ghana is a good entry, So they agreed with him on the resolution that he had for one army and all of that. So many academics are mistaken in thinking that that group of Casablanca was for African unity, when in fact, it was not, it just was lip service that is being paid to Nkrumah, for political interest or strategic interest in this, And the proof of that is that in Addis Ababa in 1963, when they came, none of them, except Modibo Keïta, and Sékou Touré, none of them voted for Kwame Nkrumah. Bourguiba was laughing at him, Nasser was at all, what he's talking about, None of them was, one person who didn't come in Addis Ababa, in Casablanca, Milton Obote, was another person who voted also with him. So Nkrumah, really never gathered those who wanted African unity to discuss on how do we going to go about it. He went there with the impression, with the feeling that confusing Pan-Africanism with Pan-African federalism. So he was, at the meantime, in Sanikiville in Liberia, in Monrovia in Liberia, those Senghor and them and Houphouët-Boigny and Awolowo were meeting to cut Nkrumah's, intention that there is no unity. What we don't want those nonsense. They were devising their plans, and they were joined by the group of Brazzaville, which was the Senghor and Houphouët-Boigny, because the counter group of Casablanca was really the Brazzaville group, because the Brazzaville group was no, don't give independence that fast. Those are, the radicals and then the moderate, about independence. So the group of Sanikiville, Sanikiville that became Monrovia, get combined with the group of Brazzaville, which is the French part of it, and they form a solid group against Nkrumah, And this is how, when they came to Addis Ababa to meet, this is what was waiting for Nkrumah, an impression that he is with other people, who was not with him, who were not with him, and a solid group that was already actually very prepared, and they even created rumors there that Nkrumah was the one who was at the origin of the killing of the president of Togo, when in fact it was the French and the Americans who killed him. But they took Ahmadi Awijo from Cameroon to make that kind of foolish statement that Nkrumah would just want power. Awolowo was on that other side, Nkrumah just want power. He wanted to extend his power. So he came there really ill-prepared. This is why we said to ourselves, you know what, we're not going to fall in the same kind of like, trend. We're going to have to gather all the people, organizations who want African political unity to strategize. First of all, to know each other, just like we're knowing each other now, but also to come into a Congress and agree on how they're going to materialize the African unity, because the terrain is fertile, The terrain is fertile. Everyone wants African unity. Everyone is ready for it. But it's not happening, because there is no plan that everyone could believe, that could, embark everybody in order in order to implement it and just make it happen. This is why the PAFM is so confident that it will happen very much sooner than when people think, because the terrain is fertile. It's only that, it's just like if you have gunpowder, you don't have a spark to make it, it doesn't take time really to make it light once you have the gun, the spark. So the PAFM, this Congress, this is what we want, the Congress, we want it to be the spark. And then from that Congress, people will go back to their countries and, get their country to become members of the United African States. It is a campaign. It is a campaign. This is why we organize in regional committees. We have 10 regions, in national committees, state or provincial committees like we have here in New York, because it is states that become member of a union. It is not individuals, For that reason, we need to have people from Senegal, people from Haiti, people from Cameroon, people from, wherever, the state that need to join, to have committees that once the Congress is done could go back home and create, put together their campaign machine, which is already being prepared, and then campaign, mobilize people, with a plan of getting that country into the union within 5 years. This is why we have thought of the plan 2023. The Congress 2023, 5 years 2028, we want to convene that second Congress to discuss the Constitution once we have the critical mass of states, to discuss the Constitution, and then 2 years more for the ratification of the Constitution and the declaration of the United African States as, election and all that could happen, We're confident that we could do that. And, it is very simple. The movement is built on these 7 questions that you have on this call. We're not complicated. We're not looking for did you read Du Bois? Did you read Garvey? Do you know about this? No. Do you say yes to one of these questions? If you say yes, but then you are interested in African unity. That's all the basis on which we are developing. So I don't want to hog the time, but I would like, this is a conversation we're having. If there are things that are not clear, we are all here, everyone here is to answer those questions, But I am very, last thing I'm going to say is that right now at this phase, this movement is we're not mobilizers. And that is done on purpose. We're not mobilizers. So we are building an army. When you build an army, you don't go on the street and just get everybody. We are organizing. It's different than mobilizing. We are organizing that after the Congress now, this event wouldn't be here. It would be outside there. Because it will be mobilizing people to get them to support these campaigns. It will be really outreach to its full-fledged. But right now we are focused on really building an army, that could sustain a campaign that could move the needle towards African political unity. This is why it's different. The movement, a lot of people want, yes, we don't want to create just like excitement. Excitement is easy. You could go, if I wanted today, I could go to Dakar and make a mobilization with 200,000 people if I wanted. But then what are they going to do after that? Unless I have people who could capture the people who are interested, who could canalize the energy that will come out of that mobilization to move the needles toward the Parliament of Senegal deciding to issue a law that say we in Senegal decide to become a member of the United African States. Unless I could do that, then I will be wasting people's time. So this is why we are focused on building a campaign machine. We're not ignorant of the need of mobilizing, yes, but everything comes at its time. We have had too many Africans called, too many congresses organized, too many, yeah, down with imperial, yeah. But then people go home, nothing happened because there's no organization behind. This is why Kwame Ture insisted on the fact that organize, do not agonize. Organize. The PAFM is drinking from all those lessons. And we are going into a process. We're not in a rush. The Congress is coming in 2027. We are identifying people just like we identify the wonderful people who are here. You here could mobilize easily a lot of people, So that's, so don't be concerned by, big numbers. We really are creating an army. We are recruiting an army. We are identifying one by one the people who could play crucial roles, because we know that our enemy is formidable. Our enemy is formidable. If we don't have an army and attack our enemy, we will be destroyed. And since the conditions are so favorable, if we ruin it now, well, it will be very costly for the future generation of Africans, because an opportunity like this will be a long time before it comes again. So that's why we have to be very careful in how we move the pieces together and how we, get people moving, organizing, all of that stuff that's needed. We have to be really brainy, if I could say it like that, brainy in terms of what have happened, how do we do it. We have to think ahead, We cannot just be left by emotions. Emotion won't lead us anywhere. The people who colonized us did a lot of meetings. They're paying a lot of people, 24 hours a day in order to maintain us happy and colonized, at least quote unquote happy. We have to be really, really very, very, careful and very purposeful, very patient. Not let emotions get ahead of us. Not want ego. We did a manifestation. There was 200 people. Everyone is talking about me. It's not about you. It's about what can be done.
So we have,
Anyway, thank you.
Brother Jemai, thank you, Brother Jemai. I have some, already there are questions being raised, but I see Brother Nile. You raising your hand? You wanted to speak?
Yes, please.
Hello, check. Hey. Hey, so first, I want to say thank you to everyone here and Baba Jumai for, really setting the stage for the freedom of our people and the unity of our people. So I want to first, say thank you, and I'm very grateful to be a part of this organization and even to be surrounded by the wisdom of elders who know much more than me. I'm just a sponge here, learning and doing my best to give my my perspective and my leadership. From recently, I've been learning through the destruction of the black civilization by Chancellor Williams, and I think what I found interesting was at one point Africa didn't have borders. We weren't, our culture wasn't constructed by separation of the land. That wasn't until the Berlin Conference. So even when, as we hear, why can't we, come together and, make something happen? Why do we always, separate and go back into our own silos and nothing happens? And I think that's because that's originally our original culture. It's one that isn't separated by, where you are geographically, but more of what principles, what cultures do you identify with. And I know that we're going back to that in this era with social media and the internet. Because now I could speak. I've met everyone here, and we've all had conversations without having to be next to each other, and are even able to put together an organization without being next to each other. So we're in a new era where borderless organization is possible. And on a deeper note, with blockchain and technology, we're able to now have autonomy and sovereignty using the technology in a borderless fashion as well. So I wanted to pose a question in how we are building the United African States, because as the way we're putting it together, we're going to do the conference, and then they have to go and convince their government to, either give a piece of their sovereignty to be a part of the United African States. But I was wondering if we could have a borderless plan, where instead of you having to get your government to agree, if you agree and you get a certain amount of people that you agree to this call, you agree to the message, you agree to the structure that's being put forth, if we join through either that be some sort of documentation, some sort of, stamp of authenticity, some certificate that says I'm a part of the United African States, have a borderless United African States that can transcend just where the countries are, and can really allow for even Africans who aren't in the country, so in the continent, so Africans who are in the United States, Europe, to be able to join in, because there's no border. And the last piece of that would be how it's being done. And I think utilizing technology is the way it can be done at the speed that we're looking for. Because, the reason why things take time, because when it comes to paper, and, you have to ship those things. Someone's got to read it, someone's got to write it. Technology makes all of those things instant, and we're in an era where people are used to that. So it makes it easier for people to quickly make that transition from being a part of, from sending information to and from organization to themselves. And the last piece is, we have seen examples of this already with the Moorish Americans. They've created their own sovereign state, and you can be a Moorish American without having to be in a specific location. All you have to do is agree to the terms. There's probably some paperwork you have to fill out, but this has been done before, and it is possible. So my question is to all of us: is there a way that we can create the United African State in a borderless fashion that allows people from anywhere to be able to join?
Well, I wanted to address this because I'm concerned when we talk about this technology. We have to understand the limitations of the technology. We have to understand also some of the implications of the technology. Like now, people, for instance, are buying virtual real estate. Your physical body can't live on virtual real estate, brother. You need land. Land is the basis of all organizing a revolution and building a nation. So me and you, our sister Aisha, Sean, our physical bodies need some land that we control. So yes, we could be part of an organization that is virtual, but we need actual land to grow some food on, to build houses on, to raise our babies on, and to be together on. So we can, and I'm looking to your generation to show us the possibilities of the technology and where it could lead us. We could do some real things with that, like for instance, the NFTs and the cryptocurrency, or creating a currency of our own that we control, that other folks can't tell us what to do with and how to spend it, right? But when you can't build a nation on another nation's land. So when you go to organize and build a community, and you're inside another community, you're inside somebody else's nation, there's implications of that. And I don't know if you're old enough, but I seen Yahweh Ben Yahweh. I seen Dr. York and what happened to Dr. York in his community, right? I seen the Nation of Islam and what happened to the first iteration under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. There's implications when you try to build your nation on somebody else's land. And we know that. We know the Republic of New Africa tried to take 5 states of us for African Americans, right? We need land. But there are possibilities in what you're saying, and I'm looking to your generation to show us the best of the possibilities that can help us move forward as Africans.
I agree with that. As an elder, I see that this technology, all right, has some great benefits in terms of helping us get back to the land, right? One of the problems that we have as people and with the climate issues that we're dealing with is that we've lost the respect for the land. We've gotten disconnected from the land. You know, urban living is so disconnecting from the land. So Brother Asukile's point about we need land, that is very, very poignant, because without land, what do we really have? But I see the technology as being a great tool that we can utilize to actually push us forward in our goal. In one sense, the fact that Africa is still suffering greatly from underdevelopment means that we have the opportunity to use the technology and really develop in a much more accelerated way than has been traditionally necessary. And I think, you know, what we really need to do is bring our heads together and bring our minds together as young and old and figure out how to make the best use of the technology so that we don't make the mistakes of the past, that we still are able to respect the fact that we need the natural world in order to survive, and use the technology to use our natural environment in a very sustainable way so that we're not destroying it. And that's where I see the strength in the technology. You know, we can save a lot of time to develop Africa and to bring Africa back to its state of world stature. So this is where we need you. We need the youth because, you know, you guys know how to operate these phones and these devices, and it's like magic to me, you know. So thank you.
But I just wanted to veg you back on one thing he said. He said we need the land, but the land also needs us. There's a symbiotic relationship between us and the land, the universe itself. And that's one thing really I'm concerned we could have another talk about that with the technology. We have to get back to a place where the technology, the creation of the technology, the use of it, and God forbid the discarding of it is in harmony. And that's where I'm also, that's where looking back at what it means to be African really is going to get deep for us. Because we have to learn how to create things that don't bring isfet, that don't bring chaos, that don't bring destruction, that don't poison the earth when you finish with them. People buy these things and get tired of them after a year and a half, and then they just discard them. But the stuff that in this form, if you throw this back in the earth now, you poisoning land, you killing animals, you killing the microbes and the bacteria, right? When we throw these plastic things away, It doesn't just go away because you don't need it anymore. It's somewhere, and it's fish are eating this stuff. This stuff breaks down into the water into little microglobules, and the fish ingest that, and then we ingest the fish. So we have plastic in our guts, and people wonder why they have these illnesses. Where did these illnesses come from? It comes from our destructive tendencies. It comes from the way that we think about our relationship to nature. And part of us, I'm saying this because part of us organizing into the Pan-African Federalist movement, we have to go back and rethink, go back and learn the ways of our ancestors in terms of thinking about what government is and how we interact with other human beings. And I'm saying this for your younger folks. The older folks, he's 80-something. Baba Juma, how old? If God willing, they might have 20 more years, but y'all gonna bring children into this world. So you need to rethink what you learning and what you learn for yourself right now, and what you teaching our babies. How you interact with our sisters, right? To build family and to continue the human race, continue the African race. So that I could go on, but let me pass it to Baba Juma.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you, Baba Jue and Brother Asukile. I will just start with where Brother Asukile ended. One of the goals, one of the reasons for being the Pan-African Federalist movement is that we have taken note that the Homo sapiens was born in Africa. Today, the Homo sapiens is in the brinks of destroying itself, annihilating itself. Who could save the Homo sapiens? Who has the moral duty to save the Homo sapiens? The land that saw the Homo sapiens be born is the one that has the moral duty to save it from itself. We cannot save the Homo sapiens by being little slits and there and here and there. We could only save the Homo sapiens if we have power. And that's Nile. Power, you don't get it through the internet. Yes, you could, do things on people's computer and stuff. You could mobilize, you could, do all that. But I think you need land, in order, first of all, to live and survive and all of that stuff. But what I was going to tell you, Brother Nile, this is exactly what the beauty of the Pan-African Federalist movement is. There is no set, path. This is why we're organizing a Congress. So what I would encourage you to do is really to think deep about that idea and bring it to the, New York State Committee so that we could bring it as part of the discussions at the Congress. All ideas are fantastic. Don't, we cannot, I encourage you really, and encourage others to come up with ideas like you did, to bring it, first of all, to our committee. So our delegate, maybe Charles, maybe Babaji, or maybe yourself, could come to the Congress and say that we in the New York committee, think that this could be a pathway, or at least contribute to accelerating the political unification. Because we're not arrogant who tell people this is what you have to do, that's it, you have to do this, to this. No, we are calling for a discussion on what to do. Yes, I do have my opinions personally, but this is not, who tells me my opinion will be the best one. We have to encourage others to have opinions. So this is why we have state committees, national committees, so you could bring your ideas to your state committee so they could enhance it, and we all bring that to the Congress. This is not a one-man, one-woman show. This is not a one-country, we're not looking for Illuminatis, We're not looking for Illuminatis who will tell us what to do. No, we're looking for the minds of Africans, wherever they are, to bring a little piece of what need to be the machine that we need to build to unite Africa and free it once for all, and save the Homo sapiens. And when I say we are the one who could save the Homo sapiens, Africa is, if we unite our states in the Caribbean and the power of the Africans in the diaspora here in America, in Brazil, we are the only one who could survive as a state like that without having to, needing imperialism, needing somebody else's resources. We don't need to go looking for resources somewhere. We already have them. What do you, so Africa could set a tone for the end of the form of imperialism as the dominant form of relationship between countries. Humanism in African people could give a different direction to the selfish, solipsistic European conception of human relations, zero-sum game mentality. Africa, one thing I'm going to say now is that in Africa you did have borders. I'm not going to be an Afro-romanticist, because that's not going to help us. There are too many Afro-romanticists that Africa was beautiful, Africa was everything. No, Africa was not everything only. No, that's not true. Yes, there was humanism. There was federalism in Africa where, for example, the Empire of Mali, Ghana, and all of those empires, they were not unitary empire. This is why you have many languages in Africa. I was just talking to brother, Ralph. I was just talking to brother Ralph about how the difference between the French, the European, and the African. European imposed the language. This is why you have only French, only English, because, it's a mixture of German and all that, and French that come with the Inglots, importing all of that made English that we have today and imposing on everybody else. In Africa, if you are in the Empire of Mali, you can speak any language you want, there was nothing. I mean, there is a Jewish cemetery in Timbuktu. There was a Jewish cemetery in the capital of the Ghana Empire, to tell you how tolerant, Benghazi was a Jewish entity that was very connected to Ghana, So to tell you how African we really value the humanness of the person. But we did have borders. Now the borders were not like you have an army there. This is how it was. You have a kingdom, and the villages that are part of that kingdom have their fields, the limit of their land, they know. So that's the border, that's simple. They know, the other people know, okay, now this is, that those land belong to the people in this village who belong to that king, who are with that king. So that's the border. There's no need for having an army to defend them. They, just the respect of the others. If you want to get that into your border, you have to conquer them, which they did sometime, But there were indeed borders, but not like you have them right now in the European conception of borders. But there were like the borders were determined by the fields of the village, that belonged to that particular, and you could tell what was what wasn't what, and all of that stuff, Now, let me just finish. So, it's important for us to understand, see, I like not to be like this to go all over, what do we need today is, in my opinion, what is really important. What do we need today to do to empower ourselves, to take back control of ourselves, to save the Homo sapiens, regardless of the color, That's what we really need to think. And a united African state seems to be the answer to me. And just to go into the environment, if you're looking at the Sahara Desert, for example, looking at all the rivers in Africa, the only place, the government that could have enough renewable energy for the whole world is the government of the United African States. Because just the Sahara Desert, here in the University of Maryland, they have done studies saying that if we cover a certain amount of desert with panels, solar panels, not only could we recover some of the part of the desert, but we could serve the whole, we could serve the whole humanity in electricity. Just that portion of the desert. Just portion of the desert. Because,
Once it's been discovered, they know.
because there are three parts in the world where you have that intense capacity to produce solar energy. One is in the Negev desert, and two are in the Sahara desert. See? This is why Germans, everyone was trying to get to Africa. All of them, Chinese, and everyone is, trying to, because we could provide the world with energy. I'm not talking about the solar energy. I'm not talking about the hydro. I'm not talking about the aeolian energy. I'm not talking about any of that, but just the solar energy itself. This is why my secret belief and my secret thinking that I'm thinking is the capital city of the United African State will be the first capital city that works on renewable energy. No nonsense fossil energy. And we could do it. We could do it, and we will do it.
One of the, and with regard to what Brother Jemai was saying, something that I've recognized a long time ago is that, Africa has the resources, right? But what has been lacking is the organized technical know-how and resources to control the development of the resources. This is why, the European powers and Asian powers have been able to come in with resources and technology, and it's almost like a ransom
Absolutely.
situation because Africa has not developed
Absolutely.
the kind of resources and technical organization to mine and refine their own resources. So one of the things that I think is really necessary is an emphasis on technical education as well as political awareness within those technically educated people so that they're not ready to just sell their technical know-how to the enemy. Africa, I've met so many African brothers who are brilliant brothers, but they were under the influence of brainwashing, come to this country not realizing how brilliant they really are. I know some brothers that I worked with personally as inspectors. When they came to this country, they took jobs as security guys on construction sites just because they didn't realize they had the technical know-how to work as engineers. You see, so there's a lot that we have to work on in terms of correcting the wrongs of the past and undoing colonization.
Absolutely.
And that's one area, education. So that's another area where I see Africa is a continent of youth. Youth outnumber the elders in Africa. But what we need to do is have the youth that have the technical education and know-how to take over the reins and develop those resources that, traditionally have been ripped off by the European powers and the colonizers. So, that's a part of the agenda that we have to work on. I'm sorry.
Now I had something to say, and Chris, but before, I just want to briefly, if you don't mind now, Baba G-Way said something important right now. Africa is a continent where the overwhelming majority of the population is young people under 35, if not under 18, right? Africa was not underdeveloped. Africa is misdeveloped. There's a difference. Underdeveloped means it's not utilizing the resources and stuff, to develop the country. Africa is actually in a space where, because of colonial masters and corruption amongst its own people, the so-called leadership, misdevelopment means it's purposely moved away from where it's supposed to be going in terms of development, right? So we don't. Baba Jiwe just now said that we need more technical education, and I agree we do need more technical education. But for me, the most important, aside from that technical education, is the education itself. And we have all this information out here that, you know, my Baba, Dr. J, has been responsible for getting to the public, that before him, Dr. John Henry Clark and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, and before them, Marcus Garvey, and before him, Henry Sylvester William and Henry Highland Garnett, and all these people sacrificed to unearth what it mean, you know, the connection to Africa, the history of African people, and the culture of African people. So what we need, aside from that technology, and again, when I speak, I want to speak to the sisters. So any sister that might watch this in the future, and to the young brothers that are here in person and may watch this in the future, because you need to understand the importance of knowing who you are before you start dealing with technology of any, whether it's math, the math, whether it's the sciences. You need to have a basic understanding of who you are. What are African values, interests, and principles? And that's going to guide you with your technology. Now, the reason I said this in relation to his comments is I was listening to WBAI, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, and they had an Asian American talking, and they said that they were talking about immigrants in particular. And what they said that is studies have shown that the highest educated immigrants coming into America right now are Nigerians and Indians. Nigeria has a lot of technically educated people. Most Nigerians that I know try to go into some type of engineering or law or medicine. That's what their parents try to steer them to, right? But look at the state that Nigeria is in at the same time. A nation with some of the most highly educated people on the continent of Africa, but they're not educated into themselves, if you feel what I'm saying. So it's not just the technical education. We have to ramp up pushing, because every time we ramp up, they ramp up. So every time we get a push like Afrocentrism, you get a resurgence of a new Tarzan movie, you get a Stargate, you get a new King Kong movie, because they realize that the control of the African mind, as Dr. J always says this, the African mind, M-I-N-D, will guide what you could do with the African mind, M-I-N-E. And we have to understand that. And so I'm asking y'all for your generation, and this is really not even what it was supposed to be anymore, because this is really an in-house kind of conversation now, because with the exception of our brother, and thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. No, I was looking at you. Most of the folks here are already in the PAFM, so thank you for coming upstairs and investigating. I really appreciate you taking the time out, especially on a Memorial Day weekend. But it's important for us to understand and eradicate myths like this Afro-romanticism that all Africans were kings and queens. If you had a nation that was all kings and queens, you wouldn't be able to have a nation, because kings and queens don't do the day-to-day work of the people. But the kings and queens are responsible for the uplift for the people. So if they have wealth, their wealth, as we were saying the other night, is dedicated to maintenance of the community that granted them their authority. Right? That's in your values, interests, and principles. So we have to come to a new understanding of what it means to be African going into the creation of these United African States. We have to go back and fetch what our ancestors originally believed and examine those and take the best practices out of those and get rid of those things that made people feel alienated or make people not want to stick to the culture, right? We got to, as we deal with this technology and as we deal with moving forward. Now,
I saw Chris back there too. Chris.
You know, a lot of times these mythologies of how things used to be, also how things are today, as far as, you know, we don't have engineering. I know tons of people who have graduated from universities from different countries in Africa that live in Africa today, and they're jobless, not because they don't have the understanding or the know-how, because the governments are corrupt. If for me, that is the number one issue that we have. We have corruption. We're at war with our enemy, but we're also at war with ourselves. We have enemies amongst us that are the go-betweens between us and our enemy. They will not allow us to fight our enemies. Sometimes we do these things unconsciously because we've been so rooted in other people's opinions that have been instilled in us for sometimes 1,000 years. For instance, religions. These religions that came from outside of our culture that were designed to put us on the side of our enemy are so prevalent in our who we consider ourselves to be that it's one of the reasons that we are moving so slowly in our liberation. Because I've never met, for the most part, a black person who didn't think we need to have our own. Everybody thinks that. But why we don't have our own is because there are things that we would rather do instead. You know, we have a lot of conversations with a lot of people when it comes to religion. Their religion comes before their race. Technology, well, science and technology comes before their race. If we put anything before our race, we lost. The end, that's it. Because these things are the chisel that removes us from our position. You know, also revisiting what was said about us being the caretakers of the planet. I've said this many times. If we do not engage in this battle wholeheartedly in every way, and not some of us, but all of us, we lost. Because if we don't take the planet back, there will be no human beings left on the planet. The European has put out this myth of, oh, the planet is suffering. The planet is not suffering. The planet will be fine without us. We will be suffering. We won't be here. Humans won't be here anymore. And for some weird reason, it seems like the Caucasian is really, really pushing for that. They're pushing so hard. Until the European took over the planet, there was no air pollution. There was no pollution in the water. There was no hole in the ozone layer. There was no chemical warfare. These things didn't exist. He wholeheartedly has created the destruction of humanity. So this is why Pan-Africanism and Pan-African federalism is vitally urgent. And if you believe in being a human being and being alive on the planet, it has to be, you have to change your perspective, because your religion is not going to fix it. It's not going to help. Religions make people think that, well, it doesn't matter what's going on here on earth. I'm going to get mine later. And it hasn't worked so far. So at the end of the day, the mythology about, you said something about, the Moorish Americans. Moorish Americans don't have anything, period. They got nothing. Because if you don't have land, you have nothing. They don't have an army. They don't have land. They don't have nothing. They have an imaginary reality of sovereignty that does not actually exist. Every group of human beings on the earth that have some type of power have a land connected to it. The reason that the President of the United States passed a bill to protect Asians is because Asians have a place that they come from. It's called Asia, China, Japan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They have a country that if somebody does something to them, there's a repercussion, because China produces so much that if you start to do something to Chinese people, China is going to respond. Black people in America who call themselves African Americans do not actually connect themselves to Africa. So when someone does something to us, there's no one that responds, except for maybe a boo-hoo or complaint. Now, because we have technology, people may have a nasty Facebook comment. That doesn't do anything. So we have to be militant in every last thing that we do and every last thing that we think about. And this blankets everything, including technology. So as the brother spoke about the virtual world, there is no virtual world. That's a business idea. And we have to be rooted in that as well. We have to understand it as a business idea. It's about money. That's what that's all about, money. Virtual real estate is all about how you can, another con to come up with for money. It's rooted in money. People are spending real money or real virtual money to buy imaginary stuff that really is owned by our enemy. They created that paradigm, and we are helping to build that paradigm and make it stronger and more powerful. And Bitcoin is now blah, blah, blah. I believe in using these tools to build ourselves up, to create what we need to create for ourselves. But at the end of the day, like the brother said, it's about the land. We need control over the lands that we walk upon, such as the Caribbean. We should be fully in control of the Caribbean. The Caribbean is part of Africa. This is what the United States, African states is all about. Recreating Africa's mindset to be one thing. You can have a whole bunch of things within that thing. It will be the black melting pot. So you have Nigerians, you got Kenyans, you got South Africans, but it will be one country and a whole bunch of different states. Like the United States of America has a whole bunch of different states that have the ability to make their own rules and regulations, and somewhere you can smoke weed, someplace you can't smoke weed. They get to make that determination, but it's one nation. They have one military, one monetary system. So whatever we create, we have to move with this understanding. Otherwise, we're wasting our time. So I just wanted to say that. And that's it.
Okay. Beautiful, bro. What can youth do right now to push the cause of the Pan-African Federalist movement forward?
That's a beautiful question. Matter of fact, I think that's the best question.
I wanted to just say something.
Oh, go ahead, big bro.
To push. Go ahead, brother.
This is why we have a youth mobilization commission. It's not Baba Jiwe who could answer that. It's not me. It's not Chris there who can answer that. We expect you to tell us what you, because you know what we want. Chris just explained what we're doing, you know. It's for you to tell us this is what the youth can do, because you are in the mind of the youth. We're not. Anything that I'll tell you will be, you know, in reference to when I was a young person in Senegal, trying to move and shake things. That paradigm, there has been a paradigm shift. There has been a change now. Now is your time. The context, you are living in it. You know it better than any one of us here. So I will not, I will discourage anyone in us here to tell you the question. That is the central reason why we have a youth mobilization commission. For you guys to provide an answer and get the support to implement that idea through our advices, based on our experience and others. But you are sovereign in that particular domain. Okay?
I would like to add to that too. Go ahead, Chris.
I just want to add on to, because Baba Juma is absolutely right in what he said, but I understand the question. So the question, because, it's not that they can't already do what they want. Everybody knows that, but they want to know what they can do in reference to this that we're creating. Because at the end of the day, a lot of young people do not have a voice. They have a voice in doing what they want to do, in things that they create. But how do you apply that to this? For me, the way you apply that to this is by taking over this. You should be in control of this. You should be running this. And when I say in control of running, that means you have to get information from the elders and from brothers like Brother Asukili, who has knowledge and information. We have brothers here who are historians, and we have brothers here who are current. Matter of fact, the historians are also current, but people who have current information on what's going on, we have to engage with those like yourself around the world and create a wave, just like you have your favorite music artist who creates a wave, like somebody like Burna Boy or WizKid. They created a wave around the planet. So you have to create that same wave, kind of like Dead Prez did or Mos Def, with this consciousness, and create this wave and attach it to Pan-Africanism and creating the United African States. It's up to you to be the new Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was in his 30s. Malcolm X was in his 30s. Elijah Muhammad was in his 30s. So the Black Panther Party was in their teens, 20s, and 30s. Even when I spoke to Baba Jumai when we first met, he was in his teens and 20s and 30s. Brother Amsada, he was in his teens and 20s when they were involved in these movements. You know, Thomas Sankara, how old was he? How old were these people? They were your age. So at the end of the day, you have the power, but you have to get the understanding, and you have to have the passion in your heart and your spirit to make it happen. Just like you have passion for your favorite music artists, and you can't wait to go out and do that new dance. Just like you have that passion for the girl that you like, or them sneakers, or that outfit that you wanted to get. This has to become your passion, because at the end of the day, this is real. Death is real. Oppression is real. What we've been through is real, and knowing what we've been through will help to motivate you and understand what you have to do so that won't happen to your children, because there is no amount of money that you can pay, and there is no amount of niceness that you can be, or clean, or uprightness that you can have that will make the enemy not attack you, because we've tried it all. We've tried to be good, upstanding citizens. They bombed our cities that we created. Trying to be exactly like them and go to church every day and say yes sir, no sir, it didn't work. Nothing that you do is going to work. They are your enemy. So at the end of the day, the planet belongs to you, and like Baba Jumai said, it's in your hands.
What I would add to this, thanks, Chris, as an answer, continue on the path that you're on in appreciating and being the African that you are. Your Africanness. Continue that quest, learning and understanding your Africanness. In addition, learn how things get done. As many things that you can learn how they get done. Physically, materially, how things get done, how things get built, how things get made, how things get created and made into real, practical, usable things. Learn as much of that as you can, how things get done. Learn how to raise money. Learn how to get people to buy into your ideas on getting something done. Right? So when you know how something gets done and you have the skills to bring people in by your creativity, by your enthusiasm, and are willing to invest in getting it done, then you're getting somewhere. Learn as much as you can, because we're up against a very formidable enemy. And any black man knows you have to be better than they are at everything. Just to be given an even shot, you have to be better. In my career, I worked with a lot of engineering companies. Up to the mid-70s when I started my own business, but prior to that I worked for a lot of companies, white-owned corporations. In every one of those jobs, I was the most highly educated person in that job category. I was the only black, only degree-holding engineer making the same money as these guys, none of whom had degrees. Right? And this still is true today. You have to be better than they are to even compete on an even level. You're going to get underpaid. You're going to get undervalued. This is how it started with us. We weren't worth nothing. We weren't nothing. We were just a commodity that they bought and sold and used for their own benefit. And that continues today. It literally continues. We still haven't leveled the playing field. So that's what I would say. Learn, understand how things are done. It's good to know our history. It's good to have, physical philosophy and ideology, and understand on an intellectual level everything that you're pursuing, but you also just on a practical level, learn how things get done. How's this made? How is that made? How is this made? How is this made? And when you have those two things working for you, then the knowledge that you gain when you know how to make things is going to be used in the right way for our people. Because you've got a good foundation of your Africanness. And that's all I would really say. That has served me well, and it continues to be something that I would push on all the brothers and sisters.
Wow. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Baba Jumai. Thank you, Baba Jiwe, for everything that you just said. I agree with Baba Jumai to a sense that we can't create the answers, we can't give you the solutions for your generation because we don't have necessarily, we don't see everything that you see in terms of potentials and capabilities. But what I will say is I've observed, and I'm in an intermediary place, me and Chris, where we could see what the elders see, but at the same time we could see what the youth see. And we have to, I think one of the things for your generation is, and I'm saying this kind of, offhandedly, how to make being Pan-African sexy, or how to make being African sexy, right? Because the overwhelming push of the culture is to push our youth out of themselves, right? And then so even I've been in experience where youth grow up and they have the Pan-African culture, where the cultural nationalists, let's say, especially here in Brooklyn, young people go to the East, right? But unless all their friends are children that went to the East, if they just go back to Bed-Stuy or Crown Heights and all their friends are talking about, what the latest fashion is, Kim Kardashian, who got shot for a diss track. I forgot what this new theme in hip hop is right now, but people going into other people's neighborhoods making diss tracks, and as a result of that, folks getting killed. We need to find out how, or y'all need to find out how you can make being African sexy for our young people, and then how to push that amongst your peers, right? And I'm gonna say this word along with sexy, relationships, right? Your relationships are gonna be important, and learning how to, relationship dynamics, not just when I say relationships, I don't just mean your girlfriends or boyfriends, significant others. I'm talking about the relationships to the other brothers around you, to the other sisters around you. I'm talking about the relationship to your family. Because I've seen people in families where they're the revolutionary and they're the only one. Everybody else in the family is going to church and they talking about they're African. If you're a lone African in the wilds of your family, you're not being African, because African is predicated on family. So we have to figure out how to get this value, how to get our people, starting with ourselves, then our families, then our communities, involved in this process. And I think the use of culture, just like it's being used now the culture and the technology now is being used to move our young people or your generation further away, with the exception of yourselves, of course, further away. I think that y'all have the wherewithal to use that to elevate the conversation, to elevate the mindset of your generation and the generations up under y'all. I have, people in my extended family, the little kids are making TikTok videos and the parents don't have no idea what they're doing on the TikTok videos. But y'all close enough to them where y'all are on TikTok, I'm assuming. Are you on TikTok? You not on TikTok? You not on TikTok? Oh, okay, y'all might be old. You got any gray hair, brother? Anyway, I digress. But we have to figure out how to make this something, revolution and struggle is not always poverty. It's not always hardship. It's not always being angry. There's times where there's happiness involved in the process. There's times when there's laughter and joy in the process of building a relationship in your organization. I think a lot of young people have a different idea of what being a quote unquote revolutionary is, in Fridays and Menace to Society, and every time there was somebody that was quote unquote revolutionary, they always tell them, "Oh, shut up, man! There you go with that black stuff. Go sell a bean pie or something else derogatory." There's a reason that stuff was put, or that particular character was portrayed that way in those movies, and it swaying our young people away from doing the work to liberate our people, right? Like Chris said. In the Malcolm X, he said Malcolm X was in his 30s. Malcolm X was in his 20s when he got out of jail. So yeah, he died at 39, but the most active part of his process was when he got out of jail in his 20s. King graduated from college at 16. Was it college? Yeah, it was college. It was high school, but then he went to college, so he graduated pretty early with his PhD. And his most active life was well before, when he died at 39, like the last 5 years wasn't, most of his work was before 35 years old. You know what I'm saying? Bunchy Carter, Huey P. Newton, all of those folks, they was young folks. So when the enemy has young people distracted or into sipping syrup or all these things, it's not coincidental, because they know that you are at your most vital at the time of your life where you are right now, where you could do the most work, where you have the most energy, where you don't have the strain and commitment of having to hold down necessarily a full-time job to take care of 2 or 3 children. This is why they get you in your teens and your 20s into negative behavior. Then by the time if you're not in jail or dead, if you make it to your 30s and you become more mature and start seeing things differently because you have children, you're already tied down to commitments. So I would say for your generation, figure out how to get to the teenagers and the 20-year-olds and get them to change their mindset to work for the people. And then also learn everything you need to know, and that's where relationships come in too, because you may not necessarily think you have access to that stuff, but with the right relationships, what they say, 6 degrees of separation, you can find out everything you need to know through your relationships. Just ask around. And then learn how to build everything and how to build a nation, and think about what it means, what's required to build a nation. I did a workshop on that last year with Families United for Solutions, to get people to start thinking, like, if we created our own nation today, what would we need? What would we need to make the city run? What would we need to supply food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security? Start thinking about that stuff, because that's how we'll be able to move forward. People keep waiting for, just like you're asking us for answers. My generation, their generation before, has been looking for somebody else to provide those answers. Nobody's going to provide the answers but you, but us. We just have to put our minds to thinking about what we need to get, what we need and how to get to that stuff that we need.
I just wanted to add a little to your answer. When I said that it's for you to find the solution, I didn't say by you alone. You have to create the environment. For example, invite Baba Joy in a conversation with youth in Bedford-Stuyvesant in terms of what it would mean a united African state for them. Invite somebody like, Asukile or mine, virtually, create the environment, so that, but you have to take the initiative. And I really reinforce what Chris said. You see, you cannot sell something if you're not excited about it. As simple as that. Brother Asukile used the word make sexy, make African unity sexy. Make it attractive. You are the one who know how to probably do that with the.
You're going to say appealing.
Appealing. Voila. Thank you. Thank you. I like that better. Make it appealing. Thank you, Aisha.
This is why
Yeah. Yeah. Make it appealing to the people around you. Wow, I want to be the Black Panthers. You know? You know what made the Black Panthers appealing? They look cool. They black thing. They have a weapon. That made it cool. They find a way of making it cool. That's why it was so attractive to everybody. African unity could be attractive. How do you make it? Have conversations amongst yourself. Invite an adult. An elder from time to time, to kind of like explore where you cannot agree in a way. You see, when we were founding this committee, these wise men asked us a question. I don't remember what it was, but we were going back and forth on things, and Babaji asked us one question, and we all were quiet after that. Because we were talking about, it was about disagreeing on who could be in the Pan-African Federalist movement, and if North Africa and all of that stuff. That's what we were talking about.
Well,
You know?
the only thing,
Yeah.
my feeling
Yeah.
was,
So,
I don't know what the
Microphone.
question was.
yeah.
Mike.
I don't recall what the question was, but you impressed me, first of all, right? And what you were saying and presented to us resonated with me. So my intent at that point was to leave the juice bar with a concrete step forward. And that's what probably the question was, well, can we start a committee? Or so, I don't know. Do you remember, Chris? I don't know. But I was saying, well, let's do something right now in this juice bar. And I think that's what happened.
We did it.
That's what
And we
happened.
did.
We formed
We
a
did it.
committee. Because I said, if we leave this juice bar without making some definitive decision right now, we're going to go our separate ways, and it's going to be like, oh, that brother was interesting, and blah, 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 blah. So that's why I felt it was important that we make some concrete decisions in your presence, and just do something concrete. That's what I felt. So I probably just said, well, let's form a committee, or let's take a vote or
I think that's what
something.
it was. It
And
was
that's very
something
true. That's
revolving
very
around
true.
that.
Because the reason why I'm saying that, having been a youth myself for a while, sometimes we got like our ego get into the way of being able to agree on something. You need an elder to kind of like, in those conditions, you will need someone, to come. Yeah, let's see how somebody, let's just.
I want to hear what Brother Now has
Let's
to
just.
say. Now, I don't
Yeah.
really need that. What I wanted to say is what he just said also is very important for you. Make some concrete goals, and that's actually going to draw more young people to it when they see that something concrete is being done. That is, what they call it, Chris? Not obtainable, something, deliverables. Deliverables. If you could really show them how this could benefit them by showing some concrete actions, is going to yield results.
And I would just have to say, Chris, again, I tell you, this brother Chris, if it wasn't for him, the committee wouldn't exist, because he brought us together. He was the one that brought us. That's 7 people together. So thank you. Thank Chris.
We will be the solutions for our own problems. We will be the solutions for our own problems. What you do today is what you will do tomorrow, and is a reflection of what you have done in the past. We are solving the problems of the lack of self-love and knowledge of self by loving ourselves and learning more about ourselves each day. We are solving the problems of ownership of our own resources by teaching and practicing ownership of our current resources, our land, our art, and our intellectual property. We are solving the problem of lack of unity by unifying through events, public forums, and community organizations. Our purpose is to unify and uplift all African descendants through the power of love, gratitude, and group economics, to achieve freedom through knowledge, creation, and collaboration. I have the knowledge, passion, and skill to create technical systems that will allow Africans globally to be able to control their own natural resources, whether that be their land, their energy, their crops, their art, all through technology. Technology, what it does in particular is that it takes data or electricity, information, and sends it from one place to another. We have created ideas about what it is, but in its basic form. All technology does is take whatever information you give it and send it somewhere else. Therefore, when you think of digital land, when you think of digital currency, when you think of any of these things, do not think of them as the constructs that have been created. Think of them as information. When you create digital land that represents what you want to create, you're giving someone a blueprint, a visual representation, an experience of the actual physical thing you want to create. And then you're giving them a way to invest in it directly from anywhere around the globe. So it takes the entire process of everything that we're doing and speeds it up by giving them direct experience to the world that we're building. We just said that if you put solar panels in the Sahara Desert, it could power the entire globe. Creating digital infrastructure is not about creating some world that's just cool that people can spend money and do drugs, digital drugs, right? Instead, you can create a digital representation, a model of the structure that you wanted to create, because it doesn't take the physical that it would take to create, right? It would take actual money and manpower to create that. But if you create a digital representation, you tell them how much it will cost, you show them how it will work, and then you say, if you want to experience it here, here's how it would work. And then you give people the opportunity to invest directly in it. All that's left is the money. You have something to show. It's, as the word we used, we won't use sexy, it's appealing. And it's a very real world. It's a very real and concise way of saying we can do exactly what we're saying we're doing, because we proved it. So, in conclusion, we will do all the things that we're saying today. And my purpose as an individual, what I've been put on this planet to do, is to be the leader in the technical front of what we do as Pan-African people, as African people, and even bigger than that, as a human race. Because before we're Africans, we are one being. And we have to always remember that. Because if we don't, we'll always fight ourselves, thinking it's someone else.
Well, before we get some more testosterone, I'd like to open. I think you need the mic so that because he's recording it for posterity.
Oh, okay.
But just before you start, Aisha, and it's important that we get some words from the two of you about what you think. And welcome. I'm sorry, I Marcus. What's y'all brother Asukili, or my quote unquote Christian name is Charles, but I prefer Asukili. But I want to make sure I welcomed you earlier. I didn't welcome Marcus earlier. As they say nowadays, my bad. Thank you for coming out. I see that you work with Nile and Nemo, so I know that's the connection. But you didn't have to come here. You could be somewhere shaking your tail feather So I appreciate you coming out here on your holiday weekend. But I just wanted to be clear about everything you said is true in terms of conceptualization, but the reality that I see existing in America as far as use of technology and the use of whatever drugs and other things, people have the tendency of escapism. So rather than fighting or struggling to create what needs to be existed in the physical reality, some people escape into second life. That's this virtual world now. The first experience I had with my friend Melvin was dealing with this platform called Second Life, where you could go and you could build a house, you could go to the club. If my friend Melvin is no, I'm not. My friend Melvin is overweight, but on the thing he looked like Brian Pumper. or Second Life, he looked like he's 6 foot something, muscle bound. Well, my friend Melvin is like 5 and some change and overweight. So people are tending to avoid the actual reality by going into this virtual reality, and that's the danger that I see of it. And so, yes, we can, at the best, at the highest ideal, use that experience to think about and feel what an actual physical reality can be about, but people tend to have a matrix-esque escape out of the real world, not have to deal with their real world problems and go into that. And that's where I see a lot of this going. We get closer and closer to that matrix thing where I see people in some placenta fluid with some electrical thing plugged in. We getting closer and closer to it. You know, this science fiction stuff is just, when they put stuff out on science fiction, it's just a test market for the reality that they're trying to actually engineer.
It's a projection.
Huh? All right. All right, well, that's what we need you for. And I want you to keep pushing to use the technology, but I also want you to realize where they're trying to engineer us to move to. That's right. Right.
And it's not, and it's
It
not,
sure is.
it's not an either or situation either. You know, too often we get hung up in an either or kind of state of mind. You know, technology is the result of the evolution of mankind and womankind. Technology is continued. A lot of the technology that has been rediscovered now was known before, and it was lost. So it's not really new. But I go back to what I said before. You know, some of these buildings that you see are being built today. Buildings of every imaginable geometry you can think. Spiral buildings, big, tall, thin towers, and weird bent-looking buildings, and all of that's possible because of the technology, the computer. The analysis that's necessary to design some of these sculptural-looking buildings couldn't be done without the computer. So, you know, technology it's just a tool. It's a tool. But at the end of the day, it still needs to be interpreted and resulting in something physical, in the physical real world. So, you know, technology is it's just a tool. It's not a panacea, it's a tool. And if you think of it as a tool and still have as an objective, how do I make practical use of this virtual thing that I've created, then we can get somewhere. Anyhow, Aisha,
No, I didn't
Sister
actually have a
Aisha.
question, but I did want to respond. Greetings, everyone. First, I just wanted to say that in reference to technology, I'd like to say that we need to expand our idea of what technology is. There's a such thing as spiritual technology. So technology exists outside of the sphere of what we have been taught as European, you know, in this country, in America. But just to just add my feminine voice, but also to respond to Brother Nile and Brother Nemo about the youth, what I'll say is that there is no sovereignty. There's no future without Black sovereignty. There's no future. There's no eternity for human beings without African sovereignty. And so what we need to, what I guess the youth can use as a tool in terms of expressing this to the younger generation is to help them understand that all revolutions started with us. The rest of the world looked to Black people for everything. So we have created, I mean, the history books will tell you, Brother Azukile will give you a litany in terms of the history and documentation in terms of the facts, the dates, but we need not necessarily, we don't want to waste our time with those kind of conversations, but just that in itself, that fact in itself is enough for everybody that is questioning African unity to get on board. And so, I mean, that's really what I have to say about youth in terms of getting involved or making it appealing. It began with us and it will end with us. And it's been mentioned multiple different times today that there is no future without African unity. The world looks to us. Africa is the center. Make no mistake about it. We are the original man. So therefore, there's no one that's going to save us but us. We are, I mean, we can go on and on and on, and we can go back to critical race theory, not critical race theory, we can go back to Cheikh Anta Diop and try to understand or explain to people the origination of how people migrated, why skin complexion are the way they are, so on and so forth. But that's not necessary, you know? So as far as making things appealing, I think that we underestimate the youth in terms of their interest in unification in general. I think that the youth are really interested in getting behind a movement that is actually going to protect us. And at this point, we understand, Black young men and young women understand that we're vulnerable in a sense, in a way that we haven't been before. And I think that that energy is real and it's in the streets. You can see it on young brothers and young women's faces when they're walking around. They feel unprotected. And so I'm not saying that the PAFM has the answers to everything, but unification of Black people is the answer. And so it's a very simple way of breaking that down, and you don't have to get into ideology, we don't need to go all the way back to Du Bois versus Booker T or anything like that, you know? So, I mean, that's what I would answer as far as the question is of youth. I will add that I think that Brother Azukile mentioned this, and Baba Jumai, it's very important that these conversations be intergenerational, and that therefore we have an opportunity to kind of piggyback and share information and ideas in a way that's holistic and be able to build something that's sustainable. So I think that is the beauty in this movement, and then in this meeting in itself and in its inception, that we're here together. And it's intergenerational, and we are in a conversation with our elders and people who have been there, so we can get direction.
Thank you. Brother Marcus, did you say something?
Oh, sorry,
I just wanted to say thank you to Brother Nile, Brother Jume, Brother Jiwe, Brother Ozukile, and Brother Chris. Did I get your name? Sister Aisha. Yeah. So I had a couple of points that I had written down that I feel we should address and hold a forum to get these questions answered instead of asking the elders questions and so on and so forth. I think an elder should definitely be present. And like she said, the meetings should be intergenerational. So I'm just proposing, we should host a forum to kind of answer these questions. We should come with answers of our own and get in conglomerate and, come together in a forum.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think would be the best place to draw,
No, he asked him a question. Hold, keep the mic.
not just like draw young people, but like where young people might come? So I'm asking the question of like, where do you think would be a good place to have a conversation with young people that's not like out of their way, that say that some place that young people might pass back and forth and, hear it and stop and actually want to participate? You got
A park. Any type of outside setting, we could bring a speaker and a microphone, and I think young people will gravitate towards that.
okay.
Where do you hang out?
That's a good question, Chris.
We can, I'm by Seaview Park, sometimes I'm by Albany Park, any sort of park that's close to, that there's a lot of youth that
Okay.
can gravitate
And
towards
so the next step to that, right, is when you offer a suggestion, you also offering to help organize it. So can we count on you to help us,
Okay.
brother?
Yeah, no problem, no problem. No problem.
What type of event?
I would say park permit,
What type
DJ. MC.
A forum, to have these questions, bring our own answers and, just bounce back. The think tank, just bounce back off of ideas of these answers,
A
of these
forum
questions.
to talk. Advertised on the social media.
See what the brother-
How do we advertise it? How do we promote this thing? That's how do we get to the youth to promote any event that we want to get the youth to come to?
It'd be
What is
better
it,
in
Vic?
person. It would,
Face to face?
yeah.
Say something, Brother Jimmy. What you just said is like opened my eyes. You kind of like, almost like a light bulb that you put in me from what you said when you asked you where. You said park.
Yeah.
You see, this is constraining for the youth.
Yeah.
It is it's out of their way. It's constraining.
It feels like a lecture.
Yeah. Why do I have to go in there?
Yeah.
That's really, I promise you, at the committee, Baba Jiwe, I will really make sure that we discuss, where to do our meetings. Really, the park, you see, this is why, Brother Nile, your idea, and I will repeat this again, I will repeat it to you every time that we come to a meeting. Do research in the idea that you have and how we can accelerate African unity through a virtual thing, whatever it is. Do your research. Come up with something concrete to us that we could discuss and debate and adopt a position for our committee and share it with the other 60, 70 committees across the world so that they could also be reflecting on it. There is no bad idea. Every idea, we don't have an answer. Because the answer would be a compromise. This is why the PFM doesn't have an answer to anything. It will be a compromise from many, many ideas that will come, and then we say, okay, now let's compromise. You leave a little bit, I leave a little bit, I give a little bit, you give a little bit, and we make up something that we believe in. Because plans is not planned in themselves that works. It's how much people believe in them that make work. How they could identify with them that could make them work. And a plan coming from a compromise like that would most likely be fully supported by all the people who have contributed, planned, and make it happen. It's the energy that people put in it that makes plan work. Okay? It's the energy. And that energy is people, when they take ownership of it, If people don't take ownership of it, it won't work. You know? So this is why the PAFM insists on these committees. Let us come to the Congress with ideas. You know, everyone, melt pot, let's put it together. And the goal of the Congress is to find a compromise, not to present a solution to people, but to have those people who are honest and serious about African unity to come together and come to a compromise, a plan that they could take ownership themselves and implement it themselves, by hook or by nook. That's all. There's no big secret about it. This is why the PAFM, to me, that's no. No one tell you that your ideas are not good. No, the PAFM wants them. You know, we want the ideas. No idea is crazy. No idea is, everything, we all have these subjective perceptions, There could be put together, like you just opened my mind, in terms of a park. Yeah. Why don't have a forum with the youth on the park? Why not have a forum on the park?
Von
with
King
a
Park.
microphone and doesn't matter. It could be a central park. It could be at whatever, But the constraining nature of this environment make them almost like difficult unless it is. And what happens usually is that, you see, if you come into this environment, you kind of like beating on a dead horse. Because only people who are already committed can really take the time to come in places like this. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Bobby.
We have another guest that we want to give an opportunity to speak or ask a question if you have any questions. So could y'all pass?
Can we finish this?
You want to let him go? All right, go ahead now. Thank you.
I'm trying to.
All right.
This energy.
I'm trying to be very receptive, so I'm doing a lot of listening. I think my generation is really politically and intellectually underdeveloped, despite the ambition, despite the passion. I think our biggest liability, my insight of my generation, is that we are politically and intellectually underdeveloped. Misdeveloped. Actually, I wrote that there's a difference. Like you said earlier, I wrote that there's a difference between disorganization and misorganization. One is intentional, misorganized. I think we need to spend a lot of time investing in the education of young people before we try to organize them. And I'm going to put a pin in that. I'm going to put a period right there. And I have a question for Niall. First of all, before I ask the question, I'm going to say what I think, because I've been listening about this technological conversation, and I've been thinking about it for a couple months. My question is, how do you sustain, if we're being realistic, and we're talking about liberation and all these, revolution and all these words, and then you throw electricity in there, how do you sustain the internet without electricity? And how do you sustain electricity if you do not control resources? So that's one of my questions to Niall. And then my second question is, when you said, what do you mean by we are humans before we're Africans? That's what you said before. You said we're humans before we're Africans. So can you please explain how, huh?
There's one race, the human race.
Yeah, so I just want you to explain, what do you mean by we are humans before we're Africans? And how do we sustain the internet and all the blockchain and all the Bitcoin and all that stuff if we do not have, and if somebody can turn, if Con Edison can turn off the electricity?
What I said with the internet transfers data from one place to another, right? And the question is about electricity. Electricity is it's a form of light, just like where all of our bodies are made out of. Every time we think, it's a form of light that transfers into another person's brain through thought. When we speak, that the molecules that come out of our mouths, the vibration, it goes into the next person, and then they're able to transmit that, translate it. There you go, and create their own thoughts from that vibration that you put out. So when you're talking about the internet, the blockchain, all of this is a re-manifestation of how we used to pass culture down for generations. It's just now on a physical thing that we're able to track. But it's the same thing as, hey, I had this thing that happened to me and I have a story to tell. I have art to pass down. I have an experience that I want to pass down to other people. And instead of having it to be word of mouth, it's on a electrical system. But when they shut the power off, the memory doesn't go anywhere. The memory remains in the people. So even though I talk about technology, it's the same thing as Baba Jiwe said, it's a tool. The main thing is us. We are the thing that we should see as most important in the whole as Pan-Africanists. I love technology because it's my it's what I'm good at, and I'm using that as a way of creating system and infrastructure. But in the base of it, it's all about family, unity, our story, who we are, and being able to share that so that we can grow and be better as people on a daily basis and for our generations. Mm-hmm. So the electricity, if it goes, we stay.
Electricity, this is what happens with insufficient technical understanding. All right, this whole argument about what happens if the electricity goes. The problem with electricity as it relates to the blockchain really has more to do with the fact that within the utilization of the blockchain technology, there's a need for a process which is called mining. Mining is a process that becomes involved, and the mining process is the use of a lot of computers, a lot of technology, a lot of energy usage. And this is why there's this argument about, well, the mining is bad for the environment, because if more and more people are doing blockchain and more mining, we're using up more electricity, and then what happens if the electricity goes? The whole thing collapses. Electricity, we know how to generate electricity, and we've been living a lifestyle that can you imagine what would happen to a whole lot of other things if we didn't have electricity? Lighting, air conditioning, banking systems. I mean, electricity is necessary for the lifestyle that we've developed as a so-called developed country and developed world. So this business of if the electricity goes, it just means that, like in Jamaica, if the electricity goes, what do people do? Hey, light some candles. Light some candles.
I don't want to, but we're getting away from.
Yeah, so it's not something, we could go off on a whole tangent with this discussion,
Okay.
And it's
Can we do a forum around this? The utilitarian use of blockchain and technology. I think we need to have a forum on this.
But let's get back because our time is short. We were supposed to, yes, please. Yes, we need to let our guests share some thoughts or ask questions, and we need to wrap up. We do need to have more conversations, and as the world is reopening back up, I'm going to propose that we actually start having in-person meetings, Yeah, everybody doesn't feel comfortable with it, but you know, we need to either have we need to start engaging each other and sharing energy and physical if you're comfortable with that. Otherwise, we could have some fireside chats via Zoom or something. You know, not so much about organizational work, but just have a conversation about thoughts and ideas as you are sharing. I think his point, though, before we shift to our brother, is just to the idea of all this technology, right? But I think your point, you could correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's actually that no matter what tech you're dealing with in terms of technology, the physical reality is you need land and you need some resources to make the electricity. Is that what you were saying?
My point is actually what you said earlier. Mike Garvey and Dr. Malachi Z. York tried to build a nation on a land that they did not control. So if we are going to talk about using technology and electricity to build a nation, we should own and operate the electricity companies and have resources that we use to generate electricity. If we're going to really talk about this,
Okay.
You guys are saying the same thing. You're
All
like
right.
two parts of the
Yeah.
same.
So
sides of the same coin.
So we're gonna go to our guest brother. What is your name? What's your name? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Lamont Scott, and I just, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to say thank you for the invitation. It's funny that I came by. I was coming from an event, and I saw the acronym. And the acronym, I said, oh, I've seen that before. And I forgot where I had seen it until I thought about one of the customers who had bought one of my products, and that was Brother Baba Gile. Yes, at a church, and I said, "Oh yeah," and I read the paper he gave me, and I said, "You know, I've always wanted to feel this. I felt that way about a unification of the African diaspora, as well as the African countries. So, and I was regenerated. What do you call it? Thank you so much. Bless you. Because of my brain, you know, since COVID and everything. So, but during COVID, there was a brother who was African from Sudan, and he had been here. He blessed me with a phone during that time because my business had gone all the way down, and my phone had broken. And he was talking about unifying more African people, and I said, "This is great." I was like, why aren't we doing this? And I thought of you at that time, and because it was the pandemic, I didn't know how to get a hold of you or anything. But I said, somebody's already doing that. And he said, yeah, well, tell me how to get. I said, I don't know how to get in touch with him. But anyways, I say that all because I think, especially with the young people here, I taught high school for 13 years and I left it. And one of the reasons I left school, and I'm not trying to put my business out there, that's why I told him not to show, but I'm a chemist by nature, so we're kindred spirits. I studied science, got my master's in organic chemistry. And when I did that and studied, got a good job, I got very, very frustrated. In the laboratory, I said, oh God. I said, oh my God, I don't know this white man know me. I said, excuse me, what you say? He said, you're supposed to be back there in the laboratory now. I said, you know what? I will go back there when I'm ready. I said, one thing, you don't talk to me like that. And he said it right in front of my black brother, who I was talking to, who was in the, and you know what I'm talking about. You know exactly, most of you know what I'm talking about, because you've been there. And I said, this should not be happening to people like me who have worked hard to progress and to progress the name of the black race and to be out there and to perform. So I knew then, I said, I can't stand this business. I can't. So I left the job twice to start my business, and that was the first time. And then I went into teaching. Like I said, I left that after the same kind of thing, this degrading behavior. At the time, it was I was in New Jersey. I taught in Newark at one of the toughest schools that there is, called Westside High School. So I taught there and taught kids who were in gangs and stuff like that. And I said, you know, I always gave them the hope, you know, that you can do better, you can do greater. And I said, but when I saw the governor, at the time it was Christie, he went after those schools. They call them Title I schools. You might have that problem here. And they went after the teachers, most of them black, many of them black, who struggled with their own students to get them up to par. And they said they didn't realize the spiritual connections and the demonic, if you want to call it that way, things that were going against our kids, you know, from drugs to incest to, you know, everything that was going. We had to deal with that as teachers. They came in there angry, cursing us out, ready to fight. We couldn't tell them. We could not expose what was really the problem because it was much deeper than that. But when that government came in there and said, well, we're not going to give you any money because you're not performing properly, they didn't realize that that's the reason. And I heard all these problems of what you were saying. And I said, and this is what I say to the young people, you don't realize, just like me, there are so many young people who are thinking the same thing, just like you. Like, why am I going through this? Why do these policemen go after black men, young men, and now even young women, slamming them? Why are they doing that to us? You have the answer. You have the knowledge to tell them this is how we're gonna fight this. We can do better. And since that time, it's been 13 years now, 10 years since I've left the job. I had my job. I went out, when I found out that I could go, I got a patent that cost me $21,000. I didn't think I could do it. But thank God, thank the Creator, that I got a patent. When I realized that I could make my own money and didn't have to lean on no white man, I said, I'm out of here. I am out of here. And I have been living and subsisting on my own for 10 years. You can do it. None of us are specialized, and I appreciate the clap, but you deserve the clap because you can do it too. They don't tell you can do it. They don't want you to know you can do it. They are hoping that you're scared and you're fearful and that you're not willing to open a book to learn how to do it. And I guarantee you, once you learn, that's the biggest fear on them. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know we're getting ready to get closed down, but I do have a challenge for the youth committee Brother Niall and Nemo. We talked a lot about technology, and we've been talking about this in the meetings, that we need a social media presence. And one of the things I know that's, trending is that when people go viral, there is a movement behind it. And so, I mean, I'm not necessarily trying to make you guys go viral or come up with ideas or generate, turn you into influencers. But I was told that you guys have the Instagram or the social media page, and that's your opportunity to utilize that space and organize. You can use that space to advertise whatever, right, advertise, educate, host forums virtually and in person, and, really build movement. And so that is a way that you can utilize the technology in the best way that you guys can. I'm also not on TikTok, so, any of those other, Facebook, no. But yeah. So I think that we need that energy, and we need to be able to captivate that space. And, that way we can use it to not only have forums online, but also advertise events like this so we can actually bring more people out.
So, thank you.
And
All right, so,
That was a
Chris, you
that
have
was a challenge.
Before
something
you
short to say?
Yeah, I got something short to say.
Okay.
Well, I love what the brother said here. I love what everybody here said, and I love what these gentlemen said. I just want to revisit what the brother right here said about coming to the youth. And then Baba Jumai got the light bulb. And at the end of the day, we don't have to create something special. Everything's already out here. This is what I've been saying since the beginning. You don't have to tell them what to do, and you can't tell them what they can't do. You just got to give them the support, what they call an alley-oop. So if they say, we need money to build a website, give them the money to build a website, because this is what will make them walk away from you, because they're going to do their own thing regardless. When I say you, I mean us, the situation, and create their own situations that may not be what needs to be. But it will be something, because people will create. So there's already stuff going on. What's the hottest concert that's going on? That's where you need to be, so you can have conversations. Where's the basketball games taking place? Where's the dance taking place? Where's the whatever taking place? That's where you need to go to where they are. You can't keep telling them to come to you, because this is not then, this is the now. Now this is how it's done.
No,
You know?
it was done the same way then. They used to call it fishing. Going fishing.
There you go. You got to go fishing. and
Malcolm
you
X
got-
used to go to the church when the church was coming out.
What- but- but-
Everybody else was on the soapbox on
Right,
125th
right.
Street.
But we got to go where everybody is, because we don't know who in that everybody is going to be.
Well,
You know what
the
I'm saying?
thing is-
Who's going to be
the
the
thing
ones?
is-
We don't know who the people are. But that's why you got to go to where the people are at,
Exactly.
and then those people who will hear the message will be the
Exactly.
ones that come over and be like, hey, well, I was like this brother right here, and you said something about social media. Now, I'm going to say this about those of us who say, well, I don't do this. Well, we at war. So if you're not willing to go on Facebook to save your race, then what were we talking about? I mean,
No, I said we're not on Facebook.
no, I'm not saying. I understand. So that means if we're going to all be in support of this, we all have to do it. We all have to get on this. That way, you can tell your constituents, your friends and
You
family.
can go on whatever platform you like. If you're on that platform, you utilize whatever platform you're on.
Right.
To get to you.
We're gonna have to wrap up.
Okay. Well, there you go then. Well, you know what? Anyway,
Thank you.
these guys right here, we need these social media platforms set up, active, and like the sister said, somebody needs to be going viral somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So,
What is a social media? What is the point of a social media account? What is the point of that?
For well, the point will be what you strategize to make the point. But the brother has been. How you doing, brother? Our brother has been back and forth several times. We have to relinquish this room. So one thing I will say, we do have a social media committee. I don't know how active it's been. I will put fault on myself for not being as active as I should be on it. But if I do, as Baba Jiwe and Jumbai know, everywhere I go, every platform I'm on, I mention our activities how to get in contact with me. Also, I mentioned the National Black Political Convention that's coming up this summer, and I will continue to. And all of you as young people, I need y'all to be involved in that process. And I shared it on all my social media, my Instagram, my Facebook, in whatever capacity I'm at functioning. So that's what we need. We need to use whatever we have. If we have paper, we use paper. If we have Instagram, we use Instagram. If we have an interview or a radio show, we use everything at our hands to reach to our people. And so whatever you're on, whatever you feel comfortable with, and even if you don't necessarily feel comfortable with it, but you know you need to do it, share the information. And I'm going to give all of us a charge as we leave today to reflect on the success of today, the strengths and the weaknesses of today. So when we have our next meeting, we could have a reflection. We could have reflections on it and how to make the next events or going forward activities that we do stronger. And as part of those reflections, I want you to think of how we can get more young people involved, but particularly young sisters involved, because there's no movement without women involved and youth involved. If you look at any of our movements, whether it's in South Africa, whether it's here, whether it's on the continent, with Kwame Nkrumah and the Gold Coast Convention and other, there's a book, I read Dr. Jeffrey's books. They actually were fearful because of Kwame Nkrumah's connection with the young people, the old guard in Ghana, or that he was working with. And, it says a lot. And then we had that same thing here with the Southern and Christian background and King and the young people, the SCLC. And I imagine the same thing happened in South Africa. We have to get our young people involved and our women and our sisters involved, because that's what makes a movement, not old folks, not stogie, not entrenched leadership. It's the young people and the sisters that make things happen. So you want to close up?
Yeah, I would just like to say that this is something I've been feeling all along, and Chris brings it to light again. And our youth committee actually is actually doing something along these lines, and that is building visibility in the community. If you think back, the most effective movements have been those movements that gained visibility in the communities that they were representing. And our youth committee started last year. They started a block cleanup program, and that's one of the first steps that we've made, actually, to start building our visibility in the community. And I think that is going to be a must for us to really focus on visibility in the community in as many ways possible. Chris brought it up. Be there, be in their face, let them see who we are, what we're about, and I think that will also draw in youth, and it will also draw in other people who might be non-believers in that, what we're trying to do is even possible. Visibility in the community. So I'd like to just end with that. I thank everyone. Brother Jemai, you have any final words you'd like to say?
I just want to say that I'm very grateful for everyone who is here. This event, we wanted it to go in a certain way, but I feel like it went the way that really is the best. Because for us to be able to understand, to have a conversation like this, it's really, it's fantastic. It will help us really go from on a new basis, and it's really, the ancestors sometimes speak in a way that we don't know, they are telling us this is how you should have strengthen yourself first before you kind of like reach out to somebody else. Strengthen yourself first, and this really happened at this meeting, and it's fantastic. Thank you, Baba Jue.
Can we, before we get out the room, can we take a picture all together in front of the sign?
Yeah, why not?
Before we get to the picture, I think let's all stand and come together